Hey everyone, this is your Hairapy session with Emily. I'm your host, Emily Mazur, aka Portland Hairstylist. Man, we made it. Yeah, we're here. Happy 2021. I feel pretty good. I hope you guys feel pretty good. This is a new year with new beginnings. When I left off last year, which was like only 2 weeks ago, that I aired my last podcast, I told you guys that I had moved to a different salon, Northwest 21 Salon. And I had my first day. I was going to start on the 2nd, but I actually started December 27th. Had my first day. It was very quiet because it was only me, and then my client showed up, and it felt good. It felt really good. It feels homey. It's smaller, so a little bit more intimate. And my clients, they really liked it. I had 2 clients on the 27th, and both of them really liked the space. So I'm glad that I made the move. And my husband actually has a brand new job as well. He has been an accountant for 7.5 years. He interned for about a year at his company. And he has finally made the move to go to a different firm. And it was not an easy decision for him, but I'm hoping with this move, and I really truly believe that he will have a better work and home life balance and the ability to be there more for me and the kids. So I'm really proud of him. He's an extremely hard worker, and I'm really looking forward to him working at this new firm. So that's that. That's where we're at. Oh, and I started a bullet journal. My friend Georgie told me about it, and actually it's pretty fun. I think I might post it on my Instagram and then also my website. So talking about accountability, trying to be a little bit more positive. So yeah, it's been really fun. So anyways, to kick off the brand new year, last year was kind of, for the podcast, it's like, okay, I want to be a salon owner. And then after my kids got bigger, it's like, okay, that's not possible right now. And of course, with COVID, although there are some people opening salons during COVID, which is great. I realized that this year I would like to have a particular focus for the podcast. And this is something that is incredibly important to me. And I hope for owners, and I also hope for maybe other stylists, maybe this might not be as important, but it is to me, and that is to have strong leadership. I don't do well if there is no strong leadership. I'm just like, what's going on? I don't feel as valued or as important. Maybe that's a very self-centered thing, or maybe it's being too dependent on somebody else's feelings or whatever, But I've always felt that there is something to be said with having strong leadership for your companies. Doesn't matter how big, doesn't matter how small, but it's just that feeling, knowing that the individual or individuals that have that business care for their business, which means they care for their employees, or they care for their staff, or they care for the people that are leasing. So that's what this year is going to be about. I have already 3 salon owners lined up, and I want to ask them, why did they open a salon? What makes them different? Do they feel like leadership is important? Do they see themselves as a leader? So yeah, I'm just kind of curious, because maybe my view of leadership is kind of different than somebody else's view on leadership. So yeah. Oh, and then I got a really great interview with Della Ray of Oregon Women's Health, which is really exciting. So that's that. That's what this year is going to be focused on. So for my first guest, she is not from Portland. She is actually from Pennsylvania. And I found her from a podcast that she does. This was like before I actually had my podcast. I was listening to other podcasts, and I really liked hers a lot. It's called In Demand Hairstylist, and she has a salon. I mean, she's pretty much a badass. This woman is a badass. Has a salon, has a podcast. Her salon is called Contempt Artistries Salon, and she's a mother also, which is really cool. Her name is Kristen Varoli, and the reason why I want to interview her is she's so freaking inspiring and positive. And I've talked to her 3 times. Like, I've talked to her about probably a year and a half ago. And then I called her up again. I think it's 3 times. And then we did the interview. And I just love it. She's so positive, very hard worker. What I really like about her is she has a system with her salon. Her salon is commission only because it is not legal to booth rent in Pennsylvania, although they now have sola salons that stylists can work. So yeah, this is Kristen Varoli, owner of Contempt Artistries and podcaster for In Demand Hairstylist. And this interview was done on Sunday, December 6th of 2020. All right, everybody, I am with Kristen Varoli, owner of Contempt Artistries Salon in Greensburg, Pennsylvania, and she is the creator of the podcast In Demand Hairstylist, which actually, that's how I found you.
So cool. So
Yeah.
cool.
So that was, I don't know if it was like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. And I was never really a big podcast listener, but then I started to get into like hair podcasts. And then I found yours, and I absolutely love your voice and the positivity. Yeah, the positivity that you kind of share. And it was really neat because I think that was even when I was considering doing a podcast myself. And you just, I shot you a DM through Instagram, and then we started talking, and then didn't talk for a while. And then I joined your Facebook group, what's the Facebook group again?
So the Facebook group is the In Demand Hairstylist.
Okay, that's right.
It's just a private Facebook group for mostly the followers of the podcast. A lot of the podcast listeners are in that group, but it's also just my community of hairstylists that I know from networking throughout the years and stuff.
So great. And you've done a lot. Like, I'm following your journey, and that's why I'm so excited to have you on the show, so I can pick your brain, and then also so you can share your journey with everybody else.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I'm an open book, so I'm happy to share.
Okay, so first starting out, now your mom was a hairstylist, is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, so we actually, the story is sort of funny because my mom does hair. She doesn't any longer, but when we started out together, I've been doing hair for, it's probably been 18 years now, 17 years, 2003, whatever that is. But anyways, basically I left college after 1 semester, and my mom was like, look, you've always enjoyed doing hair. Like you've always played around with your friends' hair. Why don't we go check out the beauty school? And so I was like, I don't know. And so anyways, long story short, we ended up going. She took me, we looked at the beauty school, and she was like, you know what? This is amazing. Maybe I'll go too.
Oh my God. Okay. So wait a minute. She wasn't even a hairstylist. Like she actually,
right.
Oh my God.
Right. So it's really funny. So people are always like, oh, you followed in your mom's footsteps. But I'm like, yeah, right. Yeah. But here's the thing. We grew up, my mom would cut our hair in the garage. She was always like, I was the hot mess express. Like she would be like doing foil, like, in the cat in our kitchen. So it's like, she was always that like she's so creative, and she always did our hair growing up because we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't go to the hair salon to get our hair done when I was younger. So yeah, she's always been super creative. And so when we went to check it out, she totally fell in love with it. And we actually ended up going to beauty school together. And so our journey is sort of interesting because we started our careers off at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
We worked at different salons. And then there just came a point where she was really like kind of encouraging me to open up my own salon, and we started that journey together. She was there. She was in the salon doing hair for probably the first couple years, then sort
Mm-hmm.
of did the back end work of like the books and things like
Mm.
that, until her and my dad actually moved to Charlotte. And so that's when the business changed a lot. But yeah, it's funny. My mom and I went to beauty school together.
Did you
So,
guys take the same classes?
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so you're in the hair cutting class and the coloring class. How
yeah.
was that? Like, I argue with my mom.
Yeah. So yeah, like so it's funny because when we graduated, I don't know how it was a year, but like during graduation, everybody always got this like award.
Mhm.
And it would be like just a quirky, fun award that had something to do with your personality. And so my mom and I got the award, the like mother, not so like daughter award,
Oh,
because
that's awesome.
we're polar opposites when it comes to the way that we interact with people and stuff.
Mhm.
But she was way cooler than I was. She was
That's
like
so funny.
totally hanging out with all the cool girls in school, and like I was just like kind of quiet, head down focused.
Mhm.
So she's kind of like the party girl, and I'm just
Oh.
yeah. So but we had fun. Like we jived together, but definitely people will ask me that, like, how was it working with your mom, or running the salon with your mom? And there were definitely days when we butt heads for sure.
Mhm.
I would say my mom and I we're so close. We're like best friends, but
Mm.
we can take each other in small doses. Like we
Yeah.
can't live in the same house together or
Oh, yeah.
work in the same salon together.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been fun though.
Well, really quick, did you guys do any funky colors on each other in school?
Um,
Like, I was into fashion colors, so I don't know.
yeah, your work is amazing and
Oh,
so
thank you.
beautiful. Oh, absolutely. Like it's stunning what you do and what you create. And so yeah, you can tell that's totally your jam. But I never played around with those funky, crazy, cool
Mhm.
colors. Like I love your hair now, like
Oh,
red, yellow, and orange. So cool. I'd say probably the craziest thing that I did to my hair, and again, we have to remember this was like, close to 20 years ago.
yeah.
But I went bleach blonde and did like this crazy, like 180-degree haircut, which is so like mullety, which
Mhm.
at the time was trendy, then totally not. And now I feel like it's
Now
coming
it's
back.
trendy.
I
Oh,
love it.
yeah. Yeah.
So I pretty much had that haircut with like bleach blonde. That's probably the
Oh, that's
craziest thing.
cool.
I feel like when you're in beauty school, that's what you do. You
Eh
just
yeah, and did
experiment.
did your mom do a lot of experiments on her hair?
Oh yeah, for sure. Now
That's
she
cool.
is definitely more into like the reds. Like she's red, copper. Like she's played around with putting like the funky colors in her
Oh, that's
hair. So that
awesome.
gives you an idea of sort of how different we are.
Oh, that's great. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Now, how long have you guys owned or how long have you owned the salon,
Yeah.
Contempt Artistries?
So in September we celebrated 13 years.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's been a
you
journey.
have solely owned it for the last, is it the 7 years? Last 7 years?
Yeah. So, well, so I opened the business as my own.
Okay.
And then my mom kind of was in on that journey at the beginning. But yeah, so I've owned it the entire time. When it really shifted and changed, though, for sure for me, and it was a pivotal point in just my journey, I will say, is when my mom moved away. So essentially, that was probably about 7 years ago. She handed me this big binder
Mhm.
with all of the information that I would need to run my business, which, the accountant's name,
Mhm.
the number for the IRS, like all those crazy things that I never dealt with. She handed me a binder and said, "Here you go. You got to handle it. Good
Mhm.
luck. We have to move," because my dad's job got transferred.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yep. So that was a very pivotal year for me.
That I
Yeah.
remember we were talking about that, and that really affected you. Like, I mean, that's your mom, like your best friend, all that
Mhm.
stuff. And then now having to run the business on your own.
Yeah, it was a hard year. I mean, it was a really crazy year. That was the year I probably um where everything came crashing down for me,
Mhm.
but also too, that was happening in the background, right? So I never showed
Mhm.
that to anybody. I would show up behind the chair with my clients, and I would show up in the salon with my team with this big, huge smile on my face, yet I was like breaking down and dying inside
Mm,
in the background, right? So as hairstylist, I think that we're really good at doing that. You know, we're
mhm.
really good at putting that smile on and pretending like everything's okay because we're in the business of serving people, you
Mm.
know.
Yeah.
But we have struggles, right? And so
Yeah.
this was one of mine. And the reason it was so hard is because I went from being that rock star stylist behind the chair, being so busy, just like loving life, like
Mhm.
doing what I do behind the chair. And then all of a sudden, now I'm not just a hairstylist, I'm a business owner, which, you know, I was quote unquote always a business owner, but my
Mhm.
mom was doing a lot of those things for me, right? She
Mm.
was paying the bills, she was keeping track of the bank account, she was contacting, you know, the accountant and communicating with anybody that needed to, you know, I just didn't do that stuff. So then all of a sudden that was in my court to take care of. And so I had to really navigate that. And it was really difficult. Um,
How many hours were you working behind the chair during that time?
oh my gosh. Well, open to close every day.
Yeah.
Open to close every day that we were open. And we were open Tuesday through Saturday. So
Mhm.
5 days a week, but I would spend 10, 12 hour, I mean, easily, you know,
Mhm.
10, 12 hour days every day. Saturdays, I'd maybe get out of there around 6. We closed at 4. So I don't know if any hairstylist can out there can relate to that, where like I would be the stylist who would come in early for a client and stay late, you know,
Mhm.
for a client, not just an hour, but like 2 hours, three
Mhm.
hours. So it'd be
Yeah.
nights I'd be at the salon at 10 o'clock at night. You
Yeah.
know, it was madness. It really, truly was.
When did you realize that you needed to cut back working behind the chair?
So it was sort of like an unfolding. So I would say like that's 7 years ago was sort of that pivotal moment. And I just specifically remember like this one day coming home and I literally fell to my knees on my kitchen floor and I just sobbed. I was
Mm.
so overwhelmed. I had my son at that time, I was a single mom. So, you know, I had so much on my plate. I had a team of people that I needed to keep intact, inspired,
Mhm.
um, all of those things. And then obviously I had my clients to take care of. I had my
Mhm.
son, I had my house. And I hit that moment where I really crashed and burned. I realized there had to be something had to change, you know, something had to shift. Well, ironically enough, I go into my office and I'm not kidding you. That day, it might have been the day later, you know, my office was a disaster. I had papers everywhere just because my life was a disaster.
Mhm.
And this paper falls out from my desk. And it was a paper from a hair show that I had gone to the year previous. I don't know how it got in the shuffle of papers, but it did. It fell out onto the floor, literally without me barely touching my papers. And it was a paper for a company called Empowering You. And it's a consulting company um, for our industry. And I knew it was like a sign from God, pretty much
Mhm.
like, here you go. This is the help that you need. And so then that's when I hired my first business coach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And are they
And
still around?
they are.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Hmm. Yeah. So I definitely, I give so much, like, I mean, I'm a huge believer in coaches. I have a coach now. It's not like an industry or business coach. It's more of like a life coach.
Oh, that's cool.
But like in the past 4 years, I've had four coaches. So she was the first.
Mhm.
That was the first company that was my first experience hiring a coach. I didn't even know what to expect, but it was the best, most pivotal decision I ever made in my business.
That's really cool.
Truly.
And then why did you switch to different coaches? Was it just to see different perspectives or maybe learning something else from another person?
Yeah. So, you know, what I don't share on my podcast, because it's definitely like industry related, but I would just say probably over the last 6 years, I've gone through like a huge journey of personal growth. And
Mhm.
so, what I believe is that these coaches, like truly, every time I've, you know, signed up or hired a new coach, it's just truly been like this person's just showed up into my life.
That's cool.
And I, you know, so I'm just a believer that whatever you need in the moment, in the season that you're in, is what you're attracted to. And so when I was
Yeah.
complete with the season of coaching around my business, you just know
Mhm.
when your time spent with your coach is complete. And, you know, for me, I had done the work. I mean, with my first coach, we really worked on, okay, what is your schedule going to be behind the chair, and what is your schedule going to be in your business?
Mhm.
Putting together a handbook, having structures and systems in the business, all of which I had none of these things, right? So I
Yeah.
was operating in part of my podcast and episodes, I say I was running on pure passion or like
Mhm.
adrenaline,
Yeah.
really. That's how I ran the first half of my like business. The first 6 years was just on pure passion. Well, that's not sustainable, right? At some point, you have to create structure in your
Yeah.
business. So we're creatives. So a lot of the times I feel like we're whimsical and like creative and we're always in our work. But there's really this whole other side of your business that requires discipline and structure and like those kinds of things, which
Mhm.
it was lacking. So yeah, so my coach really helped me just create that structure, create some boundaries within
Yeah.
my business as well. So like boundaries with my team, boundaries with my clients, boundaries with people in my life. Like there was so much personal development. Like there was so much work I had to do on myself and on my business at that time. So I actually spent 2 years working with my business
Oh,
coach.
that's really cool. Now, were they, because in Pennsylvania, it's commission only salons, right?
Yeah, it's traditionally, yes, it's always been, and it's still like, I mean, booth rental essentially
Mhm.
is it's illegal in Pennsylvania, but what we're seeing now is a lot of like places like Sola
Oh,
salons
that's right.
popping up.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily booth rental. So we're seeing a little bit more of it pop up, but it's definitely not like California or wherever where most hairstylists
Yeah.
are booth renters. Mhm.
So the business coaches that you would talk with,
Mhm.
they would help you with the whole commission structure, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like,
Okay.
yeah, everything from creating a commission structure. So, one thing that was huge for my business that we worked on was a level system.
That's
So,
cool.
creating a career path for my stylist, because I didn't really have that. It was just kind of like we were just by the seat of our pants, like, okay, I guess we raise our prices now. And I guess we all have the same prices and just that kind of thing. I just had no idea. Like, I'm a hairstylist, right? Like,
Mhm.
do great hair and I serve people well. But like beyond that, it was sort of like I didn't take time to work on my business. I didn't take time to be the visionary of my business.
Mhm.
So those were things I just never thought of. So yeah, like they helped me create a level system, which was amazing because that can then gave new stylists coming into my salon a career path to follow.
I think that that's great because I feel, now would you get people or, stylists right out of beauty school? Because you have an apprenticeship program, right?
Yes, yeah. So that's really my favorite way of doing it, just
Yeah.
because I love training from the ground up. That's really
That's
where my
cool.
passion lies, you know? So
Mhm.
I love to and I love the energy of a
Oh,
new school
yeah.
grad. I love their energy.
Yeah.
Like I love it so much.
Yeah.
So I love them. Like that's actually I would go in and teach at beauty schools
Mhm.
and connect with them and I would keep those relationships like open and that's usually how I would say that's probably the majority of my team. They've been with me for since they graduated beauty
That's
school. So
awesome. Yeah, who's your longest? It's your manager, right? Has been the longest one with you?
Actually, I one of my stylists, Angie, she's been with me for 10 years.
That's
So
awesome.
very cool. So she came in like 3 years after I opened. And so yeah, she's been with me the longest. And I think my next one after her has been with me for 8 years. My manager's been with me for 7. Um, and it's just like kind of progressively. So it's almost like I hire maybe 1 to 2 people per year and I
That's
just
cool.
train them really well, let them grow up in the salon. And
Mhm.
that's been the system that's worked for us.
Mhm.
I know not everybody does that, but it's my favorite way of doing it is hiring right out of beauty school. But we've had a couple of stylists that have come from other salons,
Mhm.
or we had a stylist who moved from California to Pennsylvania. But it's just it's difficult on both people because I think it's such a change and you're
Yeah.
learning like so. But I'm just open to anyone who's passionate
That's
and
really
love what they
cool.
do. Yeah.
And it sounds, do you have a pretty solid team then?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, we do.
oh, that's great.
Yeah, we have a great team. I would say we just hired on a new assistant who's probably our newest one. She's only been there for maybe about a month, but everybody else I feel like has been there for at least 2 years.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And it was funny because, I'm still on this journey of possibly owning my own salon. We'll kind of
Mhm.
see. I
Mhm.
feel like it's always out there. And I know that we were talking and I was telling you my vision. You're like, well, it kind of sounds like, it almost would do well with a commission salon. I'm really not sure. I'm not sure right now.
Yeah.
I have, and I think you know this, I have twin boys that are two. And it's,
Yes, yeah.
and, I, before they were all active, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to open a salon.
Right.
This is what I want. I'm gonna do it. I want it now. And then now that they're more active, I'm like, I can't do it. It
Yeah.
cannot happen right now. So,
Right.
and
Right.
plus COVID and stuff like that too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's you have to be aware of that of like
Yeah.
I'm such a it's so hard because you have to wait for the right time, right? But I'm
Hmm.
also a believer in like there's never a perfect time.
Right.
So you there's a balance somewhere in there and I think you'll figure it out.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So now you have 10 stylists, right? And two
Mhm.
assistants.
Mhm. Yep.
And the apprenticeship program is a 20-week program.
Correct. Yes.
And you have how many managers do you have?
So I have two managers. I have my manager and then I have an assistant manager.
Okay.
And my
And
assistant so my manager is also a stylist,
oh, cool.
and my assistant manager is also, our receptionist and bridal coordinator.
That's great.
Yeah.
What do you guys specialize in? Do you guys have any specialties? Is it bridal hair or
You know what? So I always tell people we're a haircut and hair color focused salon. And the reason I say that is because another just learning moment, something I went through is that at the beginning of my business, I had an employee who was amazing, right? Driven, motivated, all the good things, right? I had this big space and there was really only like three of us. So,
Mhm.
and she was just like, had all of these ideas. We had all these rooms, and she's like, well, we should do massage and we should do pedicures and we should do this. And I'm like, well, sure, we have the space to do it. Although those things are not my jam, right? Like, I
Mhm.
never really loved massage, facials and all
Mhm.
that. Just not my thing. Um, and I let her do all those things. And what happened is the business became diluted.
Mm.
What I mean by that is just the call, it was sort of confusing about what our company was, what our
Mhm.
business was. It was like a salon and spa, but like in the salon area, the music was upbeat and like fun, and that's more my vibe. And then we would have these spa rooms that were real quiet and like, calm and relaxed, which is great. But it was just diluted is the only word I
Mhm.
can use to. But long story short, that stylist ended up leaving, which ended up being a huge whoop, which was difficult for me. It was the first time I ever had a walkout.
Ugh.
Difficult. Um, but it ended up being such a blessing in disguise
Mhm.
because truly I thought, of course, my business is going to close. Oh my God, this is terrible. And it actually ended up thriving. I got rid of all of that stuff and we
Mhm.
focused on cut and color, which is
Oh,
what
that's
we are
cool.
passionate about, what we love. So the majority of our stylists, we do a ton of like balayage. Like
Mhm.
I would say we have a couple blonding specialists, we have a curly hair specialist, but
Oh, that's
when
cool.
it comes to it, like it's just hair. We love
Yeah.
hair, so that's what we do.
Can I
So
ask what your price point is?
sure. So we have the level system.
Mhm.
And our prices range anywhere from, so we have our new stylists who come in and they charge $30 for a haircut,
Oh, okay.
which is super affordable.
Yeah.
It would be equivalent to what they could get going into, say, a supercuts. So
Mhm.
we love that because it's a great way for our new stylist to build. There's a price point that's like equivalent to where if somebody is not used to coming to a higher end salon, like they get a chance to experience that high end
Yeah.
experience
Oh,
by
that's
paying
cool.
like a price that they could pay at, say, a supercuts.
Mhm.
But then once they come into the salon like that, they don't ever want to go back to like a
Oh,
supercut.
yeah,
So
totally.
and then our haircuts range up to, well, now our curly hair specialist is charging like 150 for her
That's
hair.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And do you usually so say for instance you get a new stylist, they're charging $30. Do those clients eventually go up with them when they raise their prices or do some of the clients stay at the $30 price?
Yeah. So that's the plan. But yeah, I mean, the plan is to get clients in your chair, get them to know, like, and trust you, and they follow you, right? So
Yeah.
that's the plan. But does that always happen? No, because everybody's needs are different. And that's why I
Mhm.
love the level system as well. Because, for example, we have some of our girls who are in that like middle tier level. And let's just say they moved up and their haircuts are $50 now. Um, there's some people who are just like, it's just out of my budget, but they know everybody in the salon. They've seen people work in the salon.
Mhm.
And that's one thing I will say. Our salon we do not say, that's my client. That's my client. We don't fight
Mm.
over, I mean, everybody is everybody's client. Like,
Mhm.
and I know that doesn't sound, it might be a little bit different, but it works really, really well. For us, our stylists are busy. If they lose a client or two or three, even because their price went up, it's
Mhm.
fine. Drop off to a stylist who charges less, which is fine with us. They're still in the
Mhm.
salon. And that opens up space for new clients that will come in and pay the new price.
That's really cool.
So, I mean, it sounds scary. And I've had stylists who are like, oh my God, I'm gonna lose clients, but it always ends up working out amazing. Like, it gives our clients choices, it gives our stylists room to grow, and everybody's happy.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Now, you just recently, so your salon is in Greensburg
Mhm.
and your parents moved to, did they moved to Charlotte, right?
Yeah, they moved to Charlotte about 7 years ago.
And then how long ago did you move there?
So I just moved in
Yeah,
August.
that's
I just
great.
moved. Yeah, yeah.
Um, I think, and for a while, the last time that I spoke with you, you eventually were slowly moving away from being behind the chair where you were only working 1 day a month, right?
Yeah.
Behind the chair.
Mhm. Mhm.
And how long have you been thinking about doing this move to Charlotte?
I think it's been like one of those heart things, right? It's been in
Mhm.
the back of my mind for several years at least, probably 3,
Mhm.
I would say. When I really just So it was really, so my parents moved, and then my brother and his family moved down, and then my other brother and his family moved down the year after that. So literally it was like my whole entire family moved away from me, and they were all down here. And for me, family is like a core value. Like,
Yeah.
it's one
Yeah.
of my core values. So I just felt, so that first year was really hard. Second year, I kind of got used to not having the family around. Third year, I was sort of like, oh man, like this sucks. I'm missing birthday parties. I'm
Mhm.
missing holidays. And there just becomes this point where when you're living out of alignment or incongruent to your values, what your values
Mhm.
are for so long, it starts to affect you.
Oh,
And
yeah. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it can end up in like depression, or just like I found myself like going through these spurts where I would just like cry and be so
Oh,
sad, but
yeah.
I would have to pep talk myself into being happy and grateful
Mhm.
and all of these things because I had so much to be grateful for. But when you violate your core values like that, it comes to a head eventually. And so I had been wanting to for probably the last 3 years. But the struggle was, hello, I have a business. I have a
Mhm.
team of
Yeah.
12 people here in Pittsburgh, Greensburg, Pennsylvania, and I'm going to try and move 7 hours away. Like, how in the hell do you do that? I can't do that. I'm not that smart. I can't.
Mhm.
I mean, I know people do it. I've seen people in other businesses like run businesses and they're living somewhere else. I don't know how to do it though. So I kind of sat in that space for a
Mhm.
while, just being like, it's not possible. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah. And it's almost like that stuck feeling. It's like you have this desire that you wanna do something, and then I feel like you are stuck for a while.
Yeah.
And then the crazy part is something happens.
Yeah.
Like, something
Oh,
happens. So tell me, what was it? Like, what made it happen?
well, so I mean, I'm sure for probably a lot of people, it was 2020. I
Yeah.
mean, this year changed everything for me. Like, and you're so right. Like, something just happens, like something, and something has to trigger it. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to probably butcher this, but it's like, when the pain of staying the same is more painful than like taking the leap, essentially.
Ah, yeah.
I don't know, that's not the quote, but, it's something like that. So it became more painful for me to stay than to
Mhm.
leave, right, than the fear to leave. So I was just like, I just at the point where I was like, you know what? It's now or never. Like,
Yeah.
because my son was going into like fifth grade. So I had other things. Like, my son was going into fifth grade. He's going into like, he would be going into middle school next year. I was like, there's no way I'm going to move him when he's in middle school. I was like, I have to do it now or never.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just was like, I'm moving. I'm going to make it, it's either going to work or it's not going to work. And I'm fine either way. And I think that's the point that it has to get to
Mm-hmm.
before you truly just take the leap of faith.
Now, because I totally understand about when things are not aligning with your values, and
Mhm.
that's kind of what I'm feeling like I'm going through right now.
Mhm.
Um, with that feeling, could your stylist notice it? Because you can only be chipper for so long. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you're really positive, so it's not like doom and gloom showing up, or I don't know if this sounds harsh or not harsh, but dumping problems where your stylists are like, okay, something's going on with her.
Yeah.
Could your stylist and your managers sense it?
Yeah. You know what? That's really a great question. I would love to talk to them now, and just ask them. But absolutely, I'm sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
one of my girls is super intuitive, and I knew, like, I could tell, like, because she became more reserved and kind of guarded around me because I don't think she
Mm,
felt safe, right?
yeah.
Because like she knew something was off with me, so she almost became guarded with me. So I think that of course people could tell a
Yeah.
little bit. And like, it's really funny because you're right. Like, I positivity is something I value very much too. And so I try and bring that to the table. I try
Mhm.
and bring light. I try and bring like light, love, positivity
Mm.
to the table. I just feel like that's part of my calling. Um, but man, when you're living outside of your values,
I know.
when you are not in alignment, it messes you up. And
Yeah.
there's only
Yeah.
so long that you can you're showing up at like, 50% or
Yeah.
80% of yourself. Like you're like, there's a whole part of yourself that's like missing and not showing up to the table. So I'm sure they could probably sense it. It's not really actually a conversation we ever had.
Mhm.
Um, at some point I was very vulnerable and spilled my guts out to my manager, and told her everything, and it made a lot of sense. And I think after I was able to get it off my chest,
Mhm.
then everything was great. Like, everything started moving a lot quicker, and like it's almost like that blockage that was
Mhm.
like stopping everything just like let loose, and I was able to sort of be myself, be more transparent, be more authentic. And yeah, I was able to operate a lot better. And I just think when you take care of yourself, it goes back to that whole self-care thing. It's like when you take care of yourself and you're actually living your best life and living in alignment, you can then show up for others, and it gives them
Mhm.
permission to do the same.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
How was that conversation with everybody? Did you do like a group meeting,
Yeah.
saying, "Hey guys, I appreciate you, but this is important to me, but I'm still going to be here for you." Like, what was
Yeah.
that like?
Oh, it's like, I mean,
Was there crying involved?
yeah, no, I think there was lots of
Yeah.
shock involved. So yes, like on my end, yes, I'm a crier. Like, you
Yeah, me
like
too. Yeah.
yeah, like I cry at commercials. I
Yeah.
cry all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like a normal occurrence. Like, it's like a daily thing for me.
Yeah.
Every morning, night, whatever, I cry. Mostly happy tears, but anyway, yeah, that meeting, it's just, again, everything happens so fast. I'm telling you, Emily, like, it's like when you make a decision, everything happens fast. And that's how I knew it was part of God's plan for me, because I was just kind of like, you know what? I made that decision, and it was just like boom, 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 boom. Um, I just had so much faith at that moment. And I was
Mhm.
just able to stand up in front of my team and say, hey guys, like, this is what's going on. I know 2020 has been crazy. And these are literally my words. I know 2020 has been crazy. I'm about to make it just a little bit more crazy on you guys because I'm moving to North Carolina.
Mhm.
Like, and they, like, some of their mouths dropped. I think in some of them it was like fear, like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? You're moving? Like, what is the salon closing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
think all those things were swirling around people's heads, and it ended up being fine though. Like, I think, I kept, that's one thing, like, I'm really good with checking in with people and seeing
That's
how they're
awesome.
doing and stuff. So I had the meeting, I got it out there. Half of the team was on a Zoom. The girls that weren't at the salon that day, were on a Zoom call. Some of the girls were in the room, and I just told everyone together. Some of them were like, "Oh my God, that's so exciting!" And then some
Mhm.
were dumbfounded, and some were scared, and it
Yeah,
was like
that's me.
yeah, it was like trying to balance all of those energies too.
Yeah,
As a
yeah.
leader, it's like, here you are in this room, all of these different energies. So yeah, it was definitely interesting, but it was one of those moments where it's like, that's the kind of shit that holds people back though, right? Because
Mhm,
like that moment, I could have been so scared of that moment having to tell everybody that that could have held me back. But I just decided that my desire was stronger than anything that was going to
mhm.
stand in my way. So I knew
Yeah.
that I was just going to get in front of my team and do it, you know, like this is what it is. And life changes and people
Mhm.
change and things shift, and this is part of it.
And I'm a definite, panic person because just recently, the owner of 77 opened a new place.
Hmm.
So 77 Salon in Hillsdale, and when she told us, I was like, "Oh my god, like, shutting down? Oh, are
Yeah.
we shutting down in the Pearl? Oh my god." Like, I think I called her up. Like, we got a letter, which is like I do better with communication face to face, so that was
Yeah.
one thing. That's just me.
Most
Eh,
people do, I feel.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, I called her on the phone and I left her a message. Oh my god, like what's going
Yeah.
So I do like the fact that you talk to him in person, and then I also think it is really important to do check-ins. It's not like you need to solve a problem or hold people's hands, but they do want to know, like, hey, where's our leader, right?
Yeah, no. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's so important. And that's one too, like before I realized I was not showing up as a leader. I was
Mm,
so unhappy in my life
hmm.
that I was like, I'm not even here. Like, I might as well not even be here. I'm showing up half of the human that I am because I'm miserable. I'm not being a leader to them. So I'm actually probably a better leader now that I'm down here and with my family and living in alignment and congruency with like what I want to create in my life, that I'm
Hmm.
actually showing up better for them 7 hours away than I was showing up in the salon every day when I lived there.
Hmm.
Right. So, but that's one thing I will say. And that's one thing I've struggled with, to be honest with you, is authenticity and transparency with your team and
Yeah,
communication. Oh my
yeah,
gosh. Like, because I'm sure your owner had probably been thinking about that for a long time. And I
yeah.
don't know who your audience is, if it's mostly hairstylist salon owners, but you know, one reason people don't communicate is, and I would say probably the biggest reason, is because of fear of
Yeah.
how other people are going to react. So it actually holds us back. But what happens is that we're still going to continue and do what we want to do. We're just not going to tell people about it. We're just not going to
Mm,
communicate because we're
yeah,
afraid about how people will react to it. Well, that actually ends up so much worse than if
yeah.
you would actually just be honest, open, transparent, authentic with people. Let them know where you're at, what you want, like why you're doing this, like for instance, like her creating that second location, like there has to be a reason, right? She
Hmm.
probably values growth and she wants to,
Hmm.
she wants her stylist to grow, she wants herself to grow personally, financially, all those things. Like those are things that you need to share with your team, right?
Hmm.
Because it's always going to be better when you're open, honest, and transparent with them, because then they know they can trust you.
Mm,
Can't run
yeah.
around and make like quick moves like that. And I hate to say that because like that's sort of what I did, but not on purpose. Like I truly decided that I was going to move, and then we like moved. Like 3 weeks later, we were down here.
So,
So
oh, and then when you moved, you pretty much had a solid team, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so you're having a solid team, you have a level system, and it's commission. When
Mm-hmm.
did you start your podcast?
So I started my podcast at the beginning of 2019. So it
Oh,
was like,
that's
I
so
think
cool.
March or May of
I
2019.
think that's when I just discovered you too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh, I like don't even want to listen back to those first episodes. It's
Those
probably so
they were
cringy.
pretty good. Yeah.
Oh, Lord. The podcast is really funny because at that time, and I think I mentioned to you, so 2018, again, working with my business coach, realizing you're one person, you can't do it all. You can't work
Right.
behind the chair and run the business. So I start cutting down a little bit behind a chair. At that time, I was taking off like one Saturday a month, and that felt
Mhm.
like Christmas Day to me. I was like,
Oh,
oh
that's
my God, one
awesome.
Saturday a month. And then just progressively, I would cut down one more day or like a half day. And
Mhm.
then I got to 2019, and that's when I drastically cut down my schedule. I think I was behind the chair 2 days a week. And
Mhm.
then, I really, toward at the second half of 2019, it was like one Saturday a month,
Mhm.
maybe every other week. I really, really started to cut down a lot. But what happened for me is that I kind of had this identity crisis that I was like, whoa, like, who am I if I'm not like the rock star, like, the rock star hairstylist behind the chair that everybody wants to get with, and I'm
Mhm.
so busy and I'm booked out for weeks and everybody loves me, right? It was like this ego trip.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
All of a sudden I was like, oh, like, I'm not a hairstylist, like, I'm not doing hair anymore, so what the hell am I doing? And I really missed what I missed is the creativity, right? I didn't have my hands in hair every single day anymore, and I love that. So even though I still loved doing hair, I knew, like, time wise, I just couldn't be behind the chair anymore.
Mhm.
So then the podcast became sort of like almost like a little passion project. Like, it
Mhm.
was my way of expressing myself. It was my way of kind of like, I always like to call it almost like this online journal of
Mhm. Oh,
what
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
what I was experiencing and what I was going through. And it was actually really therapeutic for me. Like, those,
That's cool.
especially at the beginning, those episodes were pretty vulnerable. And so it's sort of like, yeah, that's how it started. And it's just sort of like evolved since then. And it's been really, really fun for me. Like,
That's
I
really
I
cool.
love doing the podcast. Yeah.
And it was funny when I started messaging you on Facebook because I listened to it was one of your last episodes that I really liked. I forgot which episode it was. And then you asked me how mine was doing. I'm like, well, I found out that I actually like to swear a lot.
I know, right? It's hard on the podcast. Like,
Yeah.
I drop a bomb every now and then. Like, but I'm usually pretty good on my podcast. But yeah, like, when you're talking and being just in your space and authentic,
Yeah.
like, your real personality comes out.
Oh
But
yeah, and I loved it that you gave me it's like you allowed me permission. You're like, "Oh, that's great. You're just finding your voice."
I love it.
LOL.
Yeah. Yes, because here's the thing, like, it takes all kinds. And this is when I stepped into the podcast space, what I started feeling is like I would compare myself to people who I look up to, like Britt
Mm,
Siva, love her, right? Heather Yurko, super, like,
mhm,
love her. And I would compare myself and be like, oh my God, like, I am not as talented as them. They are so much more established than I am. I don't even know what I'm talking about. That spiral that you go
mhm,
through. And, what I've come to know is that your tribe will find you.
mm. I
The
love that.
people who
Yep.
follow, like, let's just say Brit Siva, for example, are probably not going to be the people that follow me. And that's 100% cool because there's thousands and thousands and thousands of hairstylists and thousands of salon owners who need help, who need support. And there actually needs to be many of us.
Mhm,
And the people that will be attracted to me and maybe someone who's attracted to you and your F bombs that you drop, like, may not be the same people. And
mhm.
that's great. It's actually a really great thing. You don't want people following you where you feel like you have to walk on eggshells to please
Yeah,
every. You want to be you, and
yeah.
the right people will be attracted for sure.
That now, how many episodes do you have so far?
God, so I just recorded, I think, like, my 40th episode.
That's great.
Yeah,
And that was
yeah,
from 2019 you started, right? March, you
yeah.
said?
Mm-hmm.
That's really awesome. Now, have you noticed that your voice has changed over time and the direction of the podcast has changed?
Um, yeah, you know what? I feel like it has a little bit, because, like I said at the beginning, for me, it was like, truly, it was like the only place that I felt like I could have a voice and speak. Because in
Mm,
my life, again, it was just, I was going through a lot of personal things. I was going through, like, a lot of things in the salon, and I was just like, I think I was just going through a lot. So I just, like, word vomited, like, on a lot
mm,
of those first episodes. It was a lot of, like, what I was going through personally, but I would try and relate it to our industry,
Mhm.
because listen, when you're struggling, you're not the only person going through
Mm-mm.
that. And what
Mm-mm.
that became, I think that's what people were attracted to, honestly. Like at the beginning, I had people reaching out to me and they're like, oh my God, thank you for saying that. Thank you for, because we all struggle. We all go through
Mhm.
life. Yes, we're all hairstylists, but at the end of the day, we're walking through this life
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
So,
That's really
um,
cool.
so yeah, that's really what I love sharing. I love connecting with people on a real human level and like their life and everything like that. But also too, what's evolved and happened is as the followers, as I have more listeners reach out to me, they're struggling with certain particular things in the salon. So I try and do podcasts around some of the struggles that I hear hairstylists are having.
Mm.
So it's like
Now,
sort of this fuse of like personal development and life behind the chair and business. So it's a little
so
bit of
I
everything.
I feel like that's actually so owning your salon, getting the systems, then inspiring others. You're inspiring these fresh new stylists. Now having a podcast, inspiring a broader audience. Now you're getting into coaching, right?
Mhm. Right,
That's
right.
great.
Yeah, yeah, I love it.
Did you know
Um,
that you wanted to be a coach? You were going to end up being a coach, or that it just worked out that way?
no way. Like truly, rewind like 5 years ago, I would have never imagined myself doing anything except being a hairstylist behind the chair, right?
Mm,
Like doing hair every single day. And that's a huge takeaway for me is that enjoy your seasons because you evolve as a human being. Like you evolve and you change and your interests change and things like that. So I working behind the chair as a hairstylist for those years was like the most beautiful, amazing season of my life. And
mhm.
then you just start to shift and change, and as I've been shifting and changing, it's evolved. So
That's
no,
cool.
coaching was never like really on my radar. The first time I was introduced to it actually was with Empowering You, and that was in
Mhm.
2018. I had my own business coach. She was coaching me, and she saw something in me and created a program where she actually was hiring coaches because she's one person, she can only coach so many people. So she was actually hiring people um, to be coaches. And so
That's
I
really
actually
cool.
worked for that company for just a short period of time, coaching hairstylists. And that was my first dabbling in what coaching looked like, and actually coaching salon owners.
How long
Um,
ago was that?
so that was in 2018.
Oh,
So
okay.
that was about 2 years ago, but 2.5 years ago. I started doing a little bit of coaching with them, but that business and company is very much around structure. So
Mm,
empowering you, like, which is what I needed during that time of my life, like structure in my business, structure in my life, boundaries, all those things. And they helped a lot, tracking all my numbers and spreadsheets and all of that stuff. So what I found myself coaching salon owners on was like their profit and loss statement and like spreadsheets. And to be honest with you, that doesn't excite me. Like there's nothing.
yeah.
So I can dive into it. I think it's an important piece of the business, but it's not what I want to be coaching people on. Like it's just not
Mm,
my calling, right? So that lasted just a short period of time, which was fine, right?
mhm.
Because if something's not for you, don't stay in it,
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So I could have stayed in that forever, but I knew right away, I was like, this isn't it. So I actually stepped down from that, took a little break, worked on my podcast, worked on structuring my own business, that dove into really spending a lot of time with my team and growing my culture and all those things. Um, Started the podcast, and then I just have people who connect with the information. And since then, I've had people reach out, and that's when I really started doing some coaching.
That's
So
great.
yeah,
Can
yeah.
you tell me about your program, like what the coaching entails?
Yeah, so what I work with hairstylists on is pretty much what I cover in, I believe it's episode 9, which is the 5 pillars of the In Demand Hairstylist. And basically, what we cover is, how are you being behind the chair?
Mm, yeah.
And so a lot of it is like we go over, like, one of the pillars is professionalism, one of the pillars is emotional intelligence, and so we go over these different areas of your business behind the chair. And really it's a program that I walk them through, not a program, but like we kind of touch base on a lot of personal development. It's a lot of like growing and developing yourself so that
Mhm.
you can then translate that behind the chair. And so it's all about becoming successful behind the chair.
And
And
then,
when you work on yourself, you'd be so surprised when you work on yourself and you make the adjustments and the changes, everything else gets better, right? So like
yes,
money
yeah.
starts flowing, clients start
Oh,
flowing,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
all of those things start happening, but it first starts with you.
Oh, yeah. And I think honestly, people really need that right now. I know
Yeah.
for myself, I think it's been probably about a month. And a really close friend of mine who's a stylist I work with at 77, this has been my lowest low for a longer period of time than normal. And
Hmm.
she's a really awesome person. And I feel like I'm just trying to figure stuff out, but I need a little help. So actually, I might just take you up on that,
Yeah.
the
Oh my God,
coaching.
absolutely, for
Yeah. Because
sure.
what I realized through this whole pandemic, the most important thing for me is community,
Hmm.
connection, the feeling of being valued and even noticed, you
Hmm.
know? It's
Yeah.
so
So,
important.
hmm.
People are just like floundering around trying to figure out if you don't have like a strong leader or somebody that has your back, you're just like, what what's going on?
Yeah.
But what was cool in the positive aspect of it is I started the podcast during the pandemic. And so it's been really awesome making connections, like
Hmm.
interviewing you and interviewing several other powerful,
Hmm.
like, human beings, and it's been great. And
Hmm.
I think that's really what people need right now is that stability and community.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. More important than ever. More important than ever. And, I don't know, that probably means something a little bit different to everybody. But what
Mhm.
I will say is that's one huge blessing from 2020 is that, like, holy crap, like, I think people have reached out in a whole lot of different ways, like, right? Podcasts, like, you're meeting
Mhm.
people, you're in Oregon, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, dude, we're across the country
I
from
know.
each other. Like,
I think it's gosh, yeah.
it's beautiful. It's really actually a beautiful thing. And yeah, so like we would have never met,
Mm-mm.
right? So it's this sense of community that, like, hey, like, I have this stylist friend in North Carolina. Oh, I have this stylist friend in Oregon. It's just this level of community that's outside of your salon. Now,
Mhm.
of course, in the salon, everybody's going through life right now,
Oh,
right?
totally. Yep.
I think everybody's handling it differently. Um, and that's just tough right now. I just think it's
Mhm.
really one of those places you have to have grace for people, you have to have grace for yourself.
Yeah.
You have to show up as your best self. Everyone needs to commit to showing up
Mhm.
as your best self, whatever that is. If that's 80% of what you normally give, but that's the best you have for that day, like, just show up.
Mhm.
But yeah, community is so, so important. So important.
So now with oh man, are you excited for 2021?
Oh, I'm so amped. Like, I love it. I am so excited for 2021. Um, Honestly, I'm excited for 2020. I am so excited for this last month of 2020.
Mhm.
I think this move, and you had asked me, like, what's your biggest success? I just think, like, I shocked myself this year, and I'm on
Mhm.
cloud 9, and I'm just in this place where I'm like, I'm ready to go. I am ready to elevate people. I am ready to inspire people. I am
Mhm.
ready to, like, uplift the people around me,
That's
because I
awesome.
just think it's going to be a beautiful thing. 2020 was so hard. It was so divided. You can say that it's still that way. I
Mhm.
don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but I just see a better world. I
I
just
think
see a
that's
better world.
great.
I see a better direction for people. I see things shifting, changing. I see creative people doing really cool things. And so I'm really excited for 2021. I think it's
It's so funny, which I absolutely love how inspiring you are, very inspiring. I was talking to my friend Georgie and, tying along with my F bombs, she's
yeah.
like, you should do like a holiday special F 2020.
Can you please do it? I'll listen.
Really?
I'll be,
Okay.
oh
I
my
mean,
God, absolutely. Please do
I
it.
I have I'm writing it up right now and just
Yes.
no
Oh my gosh, I
2020
love it.
just move over. just
Mhm.
move over.
Yep.
2021 is going to take care of it.
Yep. I love it. Yes, I 100%
Yeah.
agree. I think you should do it.
So now, so when, of course, your biggest move to Charlotte was your family. How's that going?
Amazing. So
Oh,
good.
is your
So good. I
son
can
is your
uh,
son happy to be closer to family now too?
yeah, yeah, no, he loves it. So like my brother's down here, he has 4 kids. So like yeah,
Oh,
all my nieces and nephews are within like a couple of years of my son. So like we have like my son's over at his cousin's right now. They had a sleepover last night. Like I took my niece out for her birthday and we went shopping and got pedicures. Like, I'm doing the things that feel in alignment. And
oh,
it's not necessarily hustling and grinding,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's not living like it's not like hustle grind. It's like, but I'm doing what's in alignment for me,
Uh,
and I'm so joyful. I'm so joyful. I can't even tell you. Like going over to my parents' house. So my parents are in their 60s. So they're not getting any younger. I mean, they're in great shape, but I like, get to go over and have coffee with them.
oh,
And I
that's really
freaking
sweet.
love it. Like it's so awesome. And I'm just so grateful that I get to have this time with
Hmm.
them and I get to enjoy my family and my nieces and nephews when they're little. And so this was like the most important thing to me. So it's going
That's
really, really great.
great.
Yeah, thanks for
I'm really
asking.
happy for you.
Thank you.
And so, goal for 2021. What is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So 2021, I've spent a lot of time in thought around this.
Hmm.
So, you know, I spent the last 18 years, and when I say those like hustling and grinding, I mean more than hustling and grinding to
Hmm.
the point where, and I think that's necessary. I'm so thankful for that season. But 2020 was a wake up call for me. And it's really like for me, when I think about the words to describe 2021, what I want, it's just legacy and impact.
Mm,
And those are the words that I chase after now. So
that's awesome.
it's not just success, it's not like money, right? For me, it's
Hmm.
impact and legacy. So I will I can promise you I will only be spending my time on things that are going to create impact and
Mm,
legacy
that's awesome.
because tomorrow's not promised for anybody, and so this life is short, and I plan on just that's the direction. That's just the direction of my life right now. So yeah, so I have been working on forever a course, the In Demand Hairstylist, an online e-course
Yeah. Okay.
that I've started and stopped and started and stopped, and then 2020 happened, and then all of those things. So for 2021, that's really my goal, is to have that online e-course out.
That's
So for people
awesome.
who are maybe not ready for one-on-one coaching, they'll have that option. So it's going to get out into the world and impact people that way and impact our industry in a big way, I think. So that's one of my goals. Another goal of mine now is I wouldn't mind eventually coaching salon owners
That's
so
cool.
that they can create the same sort of structure that I was able to create, and the freedom now that I've actually been able to have in my life, which I never imagined would ever be possible as a salon owner.
That's
So
awesome.
at some point that may be in the works. So that's I think sort of professionally, that's what I'm going to continue working on. And then in my business, I want to just continue to. This has been really cool and a new experience running my business virtually from 7 hours
Hmm.
away. And I'm having so much fun. Like
That's
I'm having so
great.
much fun with that. So I just want to continue to strengthen the business that way. And of course, create ways for my stylist to continue to grow. I love
Mm,
playing around with different ways of helping them live their best life,
hmm.
whatever that looks like. So, just continuing to create a career path for them for like success and abundance in their life. And then personally, honestly, like I really want to enjoy my time. So, like I said, I actually want to work less. And
Hmm.
when I do work, I want it to be like
Mm,
110%
yeah.
like laser focused so that whatever I'm spending my time on is going out into the world and creating impact and
Oh, that's
legacy.
great. Are
So,
you, oh, just really quick. So the
yeah.
virtual, are you
Mhm.
checking in with the stylist as well?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
actually I meet on a Zoom call
Hmm.
twice a week with both my managers, and that's been really great. So then they're my hands and feet, and they go out to the team and just share what they're learning right now. Actually, with them, we're doing like a little book club, and I'm reading a book with them that's all about personal development so that they can become strong leaders, um, and 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 lead the team to become
Hmm.
leaders as well. So we're doing like a book club, and then I also just coach them around just normal stuff that's going on in the salon and everything. And then as far as my team, I try and check in with them actually personally, like through text messages and things like that throughout like the week or whatever. But also we use a communication tool called Slack.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but basically it's like this online. It's a tool that you can use to communicate with your team, and we have different chats going on. So I'm able to stay connected with my team weekly. I know everything that's going on there, and we all keep engaged and connected that way as well. So
That's
it's been really cool. It's
great.
been really cool. And then I go up and make monthly visits. So
Hmm.
that's been something too, where it's so nice. Like after connecting virtually with people for so long, it's so nice to go up and like see them in person, which
Oh,
is that's
yeah.
been, once a month I've been going up and doing that.
Now, do you just pop in at the salon and hang out there, or do you guys plan anything like well, I guess you can't really plan a gathering or anything. So,
Yeah, so that's been the interesting thing like now, because yeah, like I would say typically if I would have done this 3 years ago, heck yeah, like that's probably what I would have done, like team night out or something like
hmm,
that, where it's just like sort of you know, connecting and hanging out kind of thing. But yeah, it's been weird. Like I pretty much just go up to the salon and I hang out. But for me, that's awesome. Like I'm
that's
still able
cool.
to connect with them. I'm still able to see what's going on in their lives and see what they're up to, and then also we can work and hash out anything that needs done for the salon while I'm there too.
That's
So
great.
yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show. And actually, I'll probably do one more episode at the end of this year, my personal episode, but I am so glad that I get to close this year with you.
Oh
Like, this
my
is what I
gosh.
needed.
Oh my gosh, good. Oh, thank you so
Yeah.
much. I'm glad. I'm glad it was helpful for
Oh
you.
yeah, totally. And I'm sure I think majority of my audience is hairdressers. I do have some clients that listen to it as well, but
Yeah.
I feel like you're very inspiring. I hope that the people listening check out. So check out the podcast In Demand Hairstylist.
In demand, the podcast is In Demand Hairstylist. Yep.
And
And
then can they contact you or where else can they find you online?
sure. So my Instagram is Kristen Contempo. That's the name of my salon, Contempo Artistry. So it's Kristen Contempo. It's EN, not IN. So that's me on Instagram. And then on Facebook, the best place to connect is in the In Demand Hairstylist private Facebook group. So
That's
they can just search
great.
that and become part of the group. So yeah, those are probably the best ways to get a hold of me.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Of
And will you
course.
and I forgot to tell you this. Can you please stay on before I stop recording? Like,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
I've done
Yes,
that
I will.
before where I'm like, "All right, see you later," and
Bye.
then they just hang up, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Shoot, like, no, I wanna say bye to you, like, off
Yeah, for
air."
real. Yeah. I'm here for you. Yeah.
Alright, well, thank you so much, Kristen.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Alright, bye.
Bye.
So, did you guys listen to that? I loved it. I loved it. I did the interview with her last month, and I thought it'd be a really great way to close the show for the end of the year. But I mean, she's so freaking positive, and I just love the fact that I feel that Kristen has strong leadership skills, and I honestly learned a lot just talking to her as well as messaging her. And so that's why I wanted to have her as my first guest for the show for this year. So, you guys, welcome to 2021. I think this year is going to be a really great year. It's going to be still pretty tough, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. If you, like we said before, if you want to learn more about Kristen, check out her podcast, In Demand Hairstylist, as well as her private group, In Demand Hairstylist. And she is an open book, very friendly and personable. So if you have any questions, just reach out to her. Well, that's it for now. This is your Hairapy session with Emily. I'm your host, Emily Mazur, aka Portland Hairstylist. Show written by Emily Mazur, sponsored by Ziba Hub. Ziba Hub, a career app where you can find jobs, explore events, and build community. And editing by 127 Media House.